It does appear to be 4 o'clock by my watch, and it appears we have a quorum. Staff, would you like me to wait a little bit, or do you want me to go ahead and get into it?
Go for the go.
If we have a quorum, I think feel free to start the meeting.
We'll go ahead and go. With a quorum being present, I'll go ahead and call the Old Town Design Review Committee meeting of Monday, April 12, 4 o'clock to be open. To begin the process, we'll ask did everybody have a chance to review the minutes from the March 22nd, 2021 meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any problems or issues? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and call it to question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That's unanimous, so it is approved. Awesome. Staff, are we okay with the current arrangement of agenda items?
Yes, I believe we have applicants from both items in today's meeting.
Okay. Just want to make sure we didn't need to shuffle them up. So item number 3 on the agenda is consideration of a letter of design approval for the exterior modification of Spherical located at 233 Church Street as requested by Robert Hall of Refined Hospitality Concepts on behalf of Merdad Moyedi, the property owner. Hopefully I didn't abuse those names too badly. So staff?
All right, good afternoon, committee members. Give me 1 second to pull this up. All right, so Spherical is the new Italian restaurant that's going to go into where Cavalli's is located at. At the previous Old Town Design Review Committee meeting on March 22nd, they appeared to seek approval for their signage and exterior modifications. Many of the information in this packet we have seen at this last meeting. Today they are looking to seek approval on some new exterior modifications, including garage door enclosures on their patio and a new door off of Church Street. They also brought forward their proposed playground equipment as requested by committee members on the last meeting. So starting with the garage doors, they're proposing 4 new garage doors, 3 facing the inner courtyard and 1 off of Church Street. These are similar to what is already existing at the Baja Cantina next door, as well as the 7 Mile. Both of these establishments have similar garage door openings, so these will look and function the same way. They've included the detailed information in the packet. They're also looking to remove an existing window off of Church Street and install a new entrance into the restaurant. This door will match the existing doors that are located on the building. Finally, they provided a quick mock-up of the proposed playground equipment. Staff is recommending approval for the exterior modifications as presented. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I do believe the applicants are here if you have any questions for them.
Hey.
Well, thank you for being here. Randy or Heather, questions, comments?
I don't really have any questions except did we decide to change the exterior from the white? I know that's not what's on the table right now, but it looks like a different drawing.
No,
it is the same whitewashed brick.
It'll still be there. It's just not reflected really as well in these images.
Selfishly, I like it. I have a 2.5-year-old, so we'll be enjoying the patio plate area.
Yeah, it's the idea behind enclosing that little patio area is just so that we can have, wedding receptions, high school gatherings, anything like that on that patio and not be as afraid of the weather. They will mostly stay open and not be visible, but have the option to close them if there's inclement weather. The addition of the door is as a result of those patio doors. We need a second point of egress if those are closed.
And the wood color on those would also be matched to reflect what's also on the current doors on the actual building.
I mean, I like it. Last time I ate there, right out there on that patio, there was so many flies. It was not a good business meeting. So that'll hopefully help that out. But I think it's nice.
Looks real good.
I just want to note for the minutes that we do have Amanda Ferguson present now as well.
Hey, Amanda.
Hi.
Amanda.
Sorry for being late. I got extra long talking mom of the bride.
Well, we're in the middle of a consideration of the item we discussed last week. Amanda, I know you've probably reviewed the packet. Did you have any questions or comments?
No, and I've been on for a little bit listening, so I'm good.
Okay. Well, I want to congratulate the evolution of this looks great. So thank you very much and congratulations on that. And I really think this is a real opportunity. So thank you very much for presenting it. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve.
And just to be clear, we're approving the letter of design approval for the exterior modifications as presented. And so do I hear a second?
I'll
Second.
Oh, you go ahead. Let Randy go.
Okay, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Sounds like it's unanimous approval. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Good luck on the work that's going to, now it's the hard part, right?
Yep.
Right. All right. We appreciate it. Y'all have
Thank
a good
you.
one.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4 on the agenda is a consideration of a letter of design approval for a project sign, a single tenant wall sign, and a canopy sign for Aura Old Town, located at 502 College Street, as requested by Marie Byram of Byram Sign and Lighting, Inc., on behalf of Old Town LP, the property owner. Staff, do you want to lead us through it?
Yes, thank you. Aura Old Town is a multifamily project that's located across from Louisville's Old Town DCTA station. The apartment complex first appeared before the committee on December 10th of 2018 for the exterior design. They are now seeking approval for 3 signs. Blade sign on the northern, a leasing center sign on the western, and then a single tenant wall sign on the southern elevations. The blade sign, as shown here, is will have steel channel lettering, and it will be halo lit. Recommendation by staff on this. The sign meets all of the requirements of Old Town Sign Code, barring the height. I apologize, the area, which is 30.2 square feet. The Old Town Sign Code stipulates a maximum area of 15 square feet. Staff feels that the sign in relation to the building has no objection to this requested modification. The second sign is the single tenant wall sign located on the southern elevation. This is aluminum channel lettering will also be halo lit and is meeting all the requirements found in Old Town Sign Code. Finally, there's the leasing center sign, which will be aluminum channel lettering as well. And this also meets all the requirements of a awning sign as written in the Old Town Sign Code. Staff recommends that that the committee consider approving the 3 signs with a modification to allow the allowed area of the projected wall sign. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Hi guys, Murphy Webster here, representing the ownership. Happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you, Jonathan, for all your help through this as well.
Of course.
I don't have any questions. I think it's appropriate. Do I remember correctly? Because I was trying to find it in the book, but I was running really low on time this morning before I had another appointment come in. In regards to halo lighting, when the ordinance was changed, we did those revisions a couple of years ago. Was that worked back in that would be appropriate for certain areas?
So the halo lettering has been what traditionally the committee has approved. As the ordinance is written, there's no internal illumination allowed other than neon lights, the traditional neon lights. Over time, we've allowed LED neon lights that have the same fixture, and then the halo light, committee members have.
I know we've used it a couple of times,
Right.
like Royal Affairs has it, on those specific buildings, because I felt like this was an appropriate use for it as well, especially being down at the rail and just outside of the, center district. And the size is appropriate. I think any smaller would, the scale wouldn't be right and it would look off. So I think, I like it. I think it looks really good.
Randy or Heather, comments, questions?
No, I agree with Amanda. The size of the building, the sign is appropriately sized as proposed.
Yep, I agree.
I have just a couple observations and questions of staff. Number one, in terms of the scale of the sign, I agree. It seems to be the appropriate scale for the application. Is there any consideration we need to worry about of setting up a precedent by this recommendation? Or if we word it correctly, can we make sure that we're still living up to the design guideline criteria as written and we're not giving up on something?
Right. So as far as modifications go, modifications to area itself is a fairly commonly asked to the committee, and it's fairly commonly granted in the case that just as long as it's meeting the character of the building. So I think in this case, it's certainly meeting the character of the building.
That says, go ahead.
Consideration, the location. You're down by the rail. You're just right outside that center district. I think it's appropriate. For sure. And
I felt confident that would be the answer. I just feel it's important to ask every time, just as an in case. So that's good. The second thing is on the mechanics of the halo light. This is a curiosity of mine. The demonstration that you have presented, obviously, the intensity of the light and the distance of the shell away from the, I don't know what to call it, the back panel, the back layer.
Yes, sir.
Causes the halo to actually to be distinguishable.
Correct.
And
in essence, we're highlighting the outline of the letter with the halo effect.
But you want the halo to be legible.
Yeah. There's kind of a twofold thing here. Number one, we're honoring the stay as close to indirect lighting as you can be. So we're not casting a broad bright light upon the public sector, if you will.
Okay.
Also, we've got units next to this particular blade sign. And it is a way to diffuse the light for those units, for those occupants. They furnish blackout level blinds and things of that nature within. But these are all considerations both through the development and even our team as we design this stuff. You know, and going back to you know, the modifications is thank you for being open for that, for one, because I work in a lot of cities and you know, a lot of code is not written to chime with what the products that are coming, you know, this type of product probably wasn't envisioned when that code was written. So the fact that you guys have some leniency toward that, I certainly appreciate. But then again, on the halo lighting, the effect is very subtle lighting. We use 300 kelvins on it. So it's a soft light on top of that. But certainly distinguishes it because it basically creates a silhouette around it.
Okay, as opposed to a backwash.
Correct.
Okay. No, that's awesome. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your sentiment. I think the staff. I know I am very proud of the staff for being so accommodating and flexible and creative. So,
well, thank you. Thank all of you. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Those are all the questions and comments I had. I'll ask, put it around one more time. Any other comments, or do we move to approve?
I did just want to say it looked like we had Ben Utley here for a second.
Yes, I'm here, but I can't get my video to work.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, guys.
I just want to see if we can't get that video to work for Ben so that if he would like, he can weigh in on this item.
There he is.
Yeah, I'm there kind of, sort of, but yes, I've been here the whole meeting.
I feel like I'm watching Batman all of a sudden.
I know.
For those of you old enough to remember Batman.
Yeah. Just need a caption above his head.
There you go. So with that, any questions or comments, or move to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented with the variance.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Staff, is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you for the unanimous vote. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat. Appreciate it.
And I feel embarrassed. The next item is my contribution to world deforestation, because I printed it off before I realized what happened. But I will recycle these PowerPoint slides, I swear. But staff, do you have a presentation for us?
You ready for me to go, Michelle, or should I?
Yeah, just real quick, I think everyone knows James Kunke, who is our Director of Community Relations and Tourism, and he has a presentation for you all today on the charter amendment that's going to be part of the May 1 ballot. I think I got that right, James?
That is correct. Hey, we're done. So,
staff, may I drop my laptop computer lid so I can put the material in front of me? Do I need to have my computer up now, my image up now?
You do need to have your image up for the meeting.
Okay, then never mind.
All right. So members of the committee, I appreciate your giving me a few minutes of your time. I'll try to be very respectful of your time and move quickly, but also give you a chance to ask questions if you have any. So we have an election coming up on May the 1st. There's a mayor's position, 2 city council positions, a couple of school board races. There's also 4 proposed amendments to the city charter. And with your involvement with the city, I'm sure you recognize the city charter is kind of like the constitution for the city. It sets the rules of how we operate, creates our governing form for the city of Louisville. And under state law, we can amend it once every 2 years. Our city charter says we must review it at least every 5 years. We tend to go on about a 3-year cycle. Most recent election was in 2017. So this is, we reviewed it in 2020, we're elected in 2021. So I want to go over those 4 propositions briefly with you. We're trying to get the word out because frankly, charter amendment elections don't get a whole lot of attention. People don't really pay much attention to them. That's one of those things where you go in to vote for mayor or vote for school board, and then you say, hey, what are these things on the ballot? I didn't know this was on. So we're trying to help get the word out, especially with those such as this committee where you are stakeholders in the city. You're much more likely to be voters than if I just stop somebody on a street corner. So we want to give you the information. We are not at all advising how you should vote. We're just asking that you please look at the information and make an educated choice and that you do vote. So we're going to go through these fairly quickly. I already gave you this first part. The charter election was called for Saturday, May 1st. Each of the 4 propositions will have a yes or no next to it, and voters just say, yes, I want to do this. No, I don't. It's that simple. Majority vote wins. So if 50% plus 1 say yes, it passes. If 50% say no, it does not pass. I will also add that the propositions are A, B, C, and D. State propositions are numbered, local propositions are lettered. So we are A, B, C, and D. So proposition A is the first one. This has the biggest change out of the 4. So I want to spend a couple of minutes on this one. That's the actual wording in front of you. I'll just read the first part. It says, should the charter be amended to provide that if prior to January 1st, 2023, the city makes an annexation that increases the geographic size of the city by at least 8%, the size of the city council will be increased from a mayor and 5 members to a mayor and 6 members. So what does that mean? Well, the annexation portion certainly refers to Castle Hills. Castle Hills right now represents just a little less than 11% of our current land mass for Louisville. There's no other place we could annex that would give us an 8% increase. We are landlocked for the most part. So the only way this triggers is if we annex Castle Hills before January 1st, 2023. Our timeline right now, we look at the annexation on December 6th of this year. So that would certainly be before January 2023. So if this proposition passes, and also if we annex Castle Hills, the city council would increase from a mayor plus 5 to a mayor plus 6. The mayor would still only vote to break a tie. Council wanted to keep that dynamic in there. It would increase a quorum. So instead of having 3 present for a quorum, we would need 4. It would increase a 2/3 majority or a supermajority needed for certain votes, such as reversing a planning and zoning recommendation. It would increase that from 4 to 5. It's worth noting that the city charter, the city incorporated in 1925, adopted the charter in 1963. We have had a mayor plus 5 on our city council for 96 years. So this would be the first time that has changed, although the city certainly has grown during that time. An interesting note here, not really the reason they put it on, the Charter Commission picked it. Right now we have a population of about 105,000. After annexation, it'll be about 120,000. So right now, 105,000, 5 council members, divide 105 by 5, that's 21,000 people for each council seat. After annexation, 120,000. If there's 6 seats, 120 divided by 6, 20,000 people per council seat. So the ratio would actually stay the same after annexation. Not the reason they put it on there. And of course, our ultimate build out is probably around 150,000, and maybe some future group decides to increase the city council size again. I won't be here for that, but whomever is, best of luck to you on that election. We're just trying to see if the voters want to go from 5 to 6. Now, I've seen some people on social media talking about residential districts or single member districts. That is not what is on this ballot. You might remember in 2017, there was an item that said if we annex by January 2023, we would go to residential districts, and that did pass. So that's done. That is not on this ballot. Decision was made 4 years ago. Residential districts, by the way, different from single member districts. Single member districts, most people are used to. You divide the city up into a certain number of districts based on equal population or equivalent population, and you have to live in that district, and then you only vote in that district. And the mayor is always elected at large. Residential districts, Abilene has these. Residential districts are designed to have geographic spread of your representatives, so you don't have your entire council living in one neighborhood or one elementary school zone. So it says that you would divide the city by 5 districts, and those 5 districts would have roughly the same population based on the most recent census, and you would have to live in that district to run, but they'd be elected at large. But again, residential districts not on the ballot, increasing the number of members from 5 to 6 is what's on the ballot. Okay, so all of ours would still be voted on at large. It would only take effect with annexation. Again, I told you annexation of Castle Hills is expected in December of 2021. If annexation did not happen before January 2023, it doesn't matter what happens on the election with this charter amendment, this would not happen. Because both things it has to pass the ballot, and we have to annex by January 1st, 2023. So if it fails at the ballot box, this goes away. If it passes, but we don't annex in this time frame, it goes away. The same is true of the residential districts, by the way. Castle Hills voters are not eligible to vote in Louisville elections because they are not Louisville residents. They are not property taxpayers. They are not voters in Louisville. So they would not get to vote until after the annexation. That means they're not going to get to vote on this change. But if if annexation goes through in December, then they would be eligible to run for and vote for city council seats in May of 2022. So that's Proposition A. I'm going to pause at the end for questions just to get through these 4. So Proposition A, the biggest change. Proposition B, the smallest change. You see the wording there. Should the charter be amended to eliminate provisions relating to the budget process that are covered by or are inconsistent with state law? So I told you our city charter changes about every roughly 3 to 4 years. We have some minor changes. State law changes every other year because that's when the legislature meets. And every time they meet, they pass laws that change how cities do things. The past couple of sessions, especially in 2019, they made a lot of changes to the budget process and the budget calendar. And what has happened now is the budget calendar that the state has established is very different from the budget calendar that our charter establishes. We cannot do both. When that happens, and it happens a lot with every city, when that happens, state law always prevails. So if Proposition B does not pass, we still have to do what Proposition B says for the most part. And I'll explain the one difference because we have to follow state law. This is just trying to do a language cleanup for clarity. So here's the specific changes. Section 9.02 would change the window when the city manager is supposed to present a proposed budget to the city council. And it would take out the language that's in there now and just say, in accordance with state law. Section 906 does the same thing for when we notify that there's going to be a public hearing on the budget. That's when we put the ads in the paper on the website. Get rid of our timeline and go to the state law. 907, same thing for when the public hearing would be held. Now 9.11 is not required by state law, but state law has changed where it's now allowed. Our charter currently says that when the budget is being considered, we have to put printed copies out for the public to come review printed copies. At the time this was written, the budget was probably 50, 60 pages. You talk about clear cutting trees, the budget now is about 3.5 inches thick. 2-sided, small type. So our charter says we have to print them. So we print a copy, we put it at the library. We print a copy, put it at the city secretary's office. Library director and city secretary say nobody actually goes there, but we put it out there just in case. We also put the entire document on the city website. And this change would follow a change in state law that says if you put it on the city website and it's in an easily located location, you don't have to put printed copies out. So that would be one of the items under Proposition B. And that's the only one that's not required under the state law, but it is allowed now. So. Proposition C, this is, should the charter be amended to eliminate the requirement that residents of the city who serve on the City Planning Commission own real property? You're familiar with the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's what we call it now, but in the charter it's called the Planning Commission. Out of all the boards, only the Planning and Zoning Commission members are required to own property within the city. No other board has that requirement. Planning and Zoning does. City Council does not have that requirement. Now, at one time, City Council did, but state law and federal law changed over the years. And probably 30 years ago, that requirement went away. And so it got taken out, but this provision did not get taken out. So it's not illegal. It's just different from every other board that the city has. To give some context on that, what it means is someone who's renting their residence in Louisville could not serve on P&Z, and more than half of our residential households are rentals, either apartments or rent houses. So this provision says that more than half our residents are not eligible to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission. If Proposition C passes, that requirement would be taken away. Members would still have to live in Louisville. They just wouldn't have to own real property in Louisville. Give you a quick example. There was a time when Dean Euchre was mayor that he was building a house or maybe doing major renovations. And for a short time, he lived in an apartment in Louisville, still eligible to serve as mayor. Had he been on P&Z, he would have had to resign from P&Z in order to accommodate the charter. So here's the actual change, section 8.04, where it describes how membership and qualifications for the Planning Commission. Just remove those words, and own real property therein. Just say they have to be a resident. Now, Proposition D is frankly not a tangible change, but it is probably the most confusing for people who don't understand how cities work. You have a big advantage. You do understand how cities work. Imagine though someone who doesn't. We get calls every week, people calling the mayor to report a pothole or to say that the neighbor's dog is barking. Well, as you know, the mayor does not fill potholes. The mayor does not go out for barking dogs. He sends them over to staff, and staff takes care of it because we have the council manager form of government. But there are people out there who just assume that the mayor does the day-to-day administrative work. So they're not going to really catch this one right offhand. In the charter, there's a list of 22 specific powers assigned to the city council. But the charter also creates the position of city manager and says that city council will appoint a city manager to serve as, you see there, chief administrator and executive officer of the city. So that's what creates council manager form of government. The council is the board of directors. The city manager is the CEO. The council sets the policy and approves the budget. The city manager and city staff carry all that out. One of those 22 powers says the council has the power to establish, create, consolidate, or abolish administrative departments and distribute the work of divisions, which means the city council could, if it chose, decide to abolish the planning department, or decide we're going to have a planning department and we're going to have a future planning department just because it sounds good. Or they could say, planning department, we're going to rearrange your jobs a little bit, and Michelle's been doing this, we're going to have her do this over here. Historically, the city council doesn't do that. They assign all that to the city manager. In fact, as we go into from the time the charter was adopted in '63 till today, we cannot find any instance where city council has established, created, consolidated, abolished, or distributed within a department. So if Proposition D is approved, it would take that one power away and leave the other 21 unchanged. The actual change would be in section 3.07, would take away item B, which has the language I've already told to you. So those are the four changes, the four proposed amendments. Are there any questions about the four proposed amendments?
Anybody, any questions? Couple of observations from my perspective. Ancient history, a little bit of window into my background. Working with the Council of Governments for as many years, I've seen probably a good deal of creativity and the approach to these particular questions as a city goes through its life cycle. So I think it appears that in a lot of ways it's catch-up time, and I think it's going to put many of these are going to put Louisville into the appropriate toolbox for a city of its size and stature to handle. I guess the observation that I have is I am comfortable with my knowledge of Louisville geography, but correct me if I'm wrong. The Castle Hills is somewhat isolated from the rest of the jurisdiction around the bottom of the lake, correct?
It's over on the far east end.
Okay.
There is Louisville just past it along Josie Lane and in Austin Ranch, but there is certainly a physical separation between it and the core of Louisville.
Okay, so this is not necessarily a question about your presentation, but it has to do with some of the ins and outs of annexation. Is there any level of service issues that this will either assist, be a problem for, or just remain neutral on to providing city services into that area?
So the quick answer for that is a lot of the services will be very simple. Our water system already connects to theirs. It's just not flowing. So it's a matter of changing valves. We already provide sewer service. We already provide fire service. We provide limited police service under contract. They pay for the service. We would just increase it to full police. We're going to have to add some staff in a few departments in order to provide code enforcement, animal services, and so forth. The one area that we're kind of really digging into right now is parks. You know, we have the 10-minute walk to a park initiative. They have a lot of green spaces that they call parks, or trails or open spaces. They're not owned by the water district. They're owned by the HOA. And the water district has been maintaining them, which honestly we think is illegal. We would never maintain an HOA's park. However, they've been doing it for all these years, and they've been wanting the HOA to maintain ownership of those. So we started working on a recreation easement to guarantee those would stay parks and they'd be open to the public. But we're still talking to them about seeing if they will dedicate at least some of those over to us so that we can fully maintain those parks to the standard we believe they deserve. So that's probably the most difficult service area we see right now. The rest of them, we already service Josie Lane, we already service Austin Ranch. So this is just kind of a stop in the middle.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that.
My pleasure. I will add one, since you mentioned geography. Usually I get asked if we know what the 6 residential districts would look like, or the 5 if that doesn't pass. And the answer is we won't know till we get the census figures. Usually we get those on April 1st every 10 years, but because of the pandemic, they're delayed. We hope to have them by September 1st. I said April 1st before, right? Yeah. We hope to have them by September 1st, which means when we get them, we'll have 3 months to crank out residential districts before annexation happens. So that's going to be a very hectic 3 months, but right now we just don't know. And we don't even have any drafts, because why spend a lot of time developing draft maps when you're really just guessing?
Hey, my last observation is more of a question in terms of working in downtown Dallas and being a Dallas resident as for most of my childhood. The rollout of single-member districts was an eye-opener for everybody. Is there any indication that does our demography lend itself to maintaining at-large districts?
So about 4 years ago, when so this was in 2016, 2017, when that charter commission was working on items, they looked into single-member districts. And we actually hired a consulting company that does that type of work. They did it for Dallas and Grand Prairie and Irving. And they came in and studied our 2010 census figures and the updates from COG, not just the population numbers, but the demographics. And what they found is that with the exception of our Chin community, which is about 4,000 people, and they're pretty closely together, with the exception of that group, our ethnic groups are not clustered geographically. We might have 4 or 5 streets that are very heavily Black or very heavily Latino or very heavily Korean, but there's not entire sections of the city that are. And so they came back and said, if you try to do single member districts, you will not be able to draw districts that are minority majority or majority minority. You will not be able to draw districts in which a minority population is the majority in a certain district. They said it's just, unless you draw all kind of squiggly lines and, you know, Rorschach tests and whatever else. So their recommendation was right now, don't do it, but look at it again in the future. So we've not seen any demographic shifts in the past 4 years of any significance. So our expectation is there'll be residential districts, but not single member, and it'll be geographically divided, but not divided by ethnicity.
And it would
our city is so blended and so diverse.
And it would withstand any challenge we could logically or confidently predict.
We believe it would, based on what we saw then. We'll look at it again. That'll be a question we'll ask, because we're going to bring in a consultant to help draw these lines. And we'll tell them again, just make sure we're okay on this.
Okay.
In terms of voter education, residential districts will be fairly easy. Unless you're running for council, it doesn't really matter because you're going to vote for every position.
Right.
If you're running for council, you got to be in your district. So we'll educate the public about District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and possibly 6. We'll have a map, but if people don't get it or don't pay attention, it won't make a difference to them because they're going to vote for the same number of people.
Very good. Other questions?
This group, by the way, has now officially asked more questions than the first 3 that I did. So
sorry, and it's been
no, I like questions.
This is the third time I've heard this, so I'm just going to sit over it. By this time, I could probably do the presentation for you, James.
Well, why don't you take the last 3 slides? So the last 3 slides are very simple. It's just, remember, we're not telling you how to vote. We're saying, please study these and then make sure you do vote. So if you live in Denton County, and I bet all of you do, we have a very small area of about 1,000 voters that live in Dallas County. But if you live in Denton County, early voting is at any early voting site designated by Denton County. There's one in Louisville, it's going to be the Herring Rec Center. But other than that, you can go, there's one in Carrollton, there's one in Flower Mound, there's one in probably Highland Village, I haven't looked. So any Denton County early voting site you can go to. In Louisville, there's the one. And it starts next Monday, the 19th, and runs through Tuesday, the 27th. It does include a Saturday and a Sunday. If you live in that Dallas County, you're one of those 1,000 or so voters, any early voting site set up by Dallas County. There's not one in Louisville because we have no public buildings in that little area. So those residents for early voting could go to Coppell Town Center or any of the other Dallas County sites. The schedule's exactly the same, and that's on purpose. We don't want residents who live on the wrong side of the street to get confused why their neighbor voted and they didn't. So schedule's the same. On election day, we got a change here. Now the date is Saturday, May 1st. It's from 7 to 7 like it always is. We used to have 2 polling places in Louisville. When I first moved here, the polling places were the Annex and Midway Recreation Center, or the Senior Center, actually. No, it was Midway Rec. Anyway, those were the 2. But voter turnout is not large in Louisville. And at some point, it was decided, we have so few people voting, it costs us money to have 2 polling places. Let's go to 1 polling place. And so we did. We had 1 polling place for probably the past decade. It's been at City Hall or the Annex. It depends on, but usually it's been in the Annex the past 4 or 5 years. Well, there's also a line of thought that if you have more polling places to make it easier for people to vote, maybe more people will vote. And we had such good turnout for the presidential election in 2020. We don't want that kind of division, but we like the turnout. We're trying again another polling place. We're going to have 2 polling places. Don't be surprised if there's 3 next year, because with Castle Hills, we'll need one out on the east side. But we're having 2 this year. Fred Herring on the north side, Victorious Life Assembly God on the south side. That's on MacArthur, right next to the mall. You'll notice Carrollton Public Library, that's on the east end. So people out on Josie Lane, they will vote at Carrollton Public Library. Please, this is the important part. They're assigned by precinct, just like a federal election or a state election. So you need to look on your voter card, see what precinct you are, and go to the correct polling place. If you're on the north side, it's probably going to be Herring. If you're on the south side like me, it's probably going to be Victorious Life. But look, so you don't drive to the wrong one and then get all mad that you drove to the wrong place. It happens every year. Somebody's going to do it. None of you, but somebody out there will. And they'll be mad at us because I get those calls sometimes. So check where you're going to vote. If you're one of the 1,000 voters living in Dallas County has what's called a county voting centers. That means you can go to any voting center in Dallas County and vote on election day. Denton County is not yet authorized for those, but they are going through the process to try and become authorized. It's in the legislature this session. And if that works, then going forward, we'll have Denton County voting centers. But right now we don't. So if you got to vote in your precinct if you're a Denton County resident, or go to any Dallas County vote center if you are a Dallas County resident. So a little more confusing until it gets less confusing. And that is my presentation, unless there's any other questions or comments. Did I leave anything out, Amanda, that I need to get in there?
You did it perfect every time.
Good. Want to make sure I didn't miss anything. You have heard it several times. You'll probably hear it at least once more.
Well, again, I certainly appreciate the hard work that goes into this. I think one of the lessons that I've been fortunate through my career to learn is this stuff doesn't happen by magic, and there's a lot of work behind these things. They just don't appear on the nightly news and they're done. It takes a lot of work. So appreciate the hard work and the forward thinking that's gone into this.
Well, thank you. It does frustrate city employees when we see a presidential election with 50 to 60% turnout, and then a governor election 2 years later with 40 to 50% turnout, and city elections 5 to 10%.
Right.
And as you know, the city has more impact on your day-to-day life than either of those other branches. They're bigger, they're stronger, they have more money and more resources, but day-to-day, it's the city that is affecting your life. So it ought to be flipped. There ought to be everybody voting for the city.
Done.
Great.
Thank you, folks,
Here,
for
here.
your time. I appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Good job.
Wow, what a great presentation. I learned a lot. Any conversation that needs to occur before we adjourn? So do I have a motion to? Don't think I need it, but what the heck. So let's go ahead and call the meeting adjourned, and thank you very much. Staff, do we anticipate a meeting in the next 2 weeks, or are we in a wait and see mode?
We're in wait and see mode right now. We have a couple of applications we're waiting to see if we get some revisions on.
Very good. Is there, I know that I have some paperwork due to the city secretary. Do we need to talk about any of that or with other council members?
Yeah, so the city secretary's office should reach out to you directly if your term is coming near its expiration for you to go ahead and submit those forms into them.
Very good. Well, again, thank you very much. I hope everybody is having a great afternoon, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.